Hello and welcome to the NHRA Insider Podcast powered by Speedmaster.
They snap off the starting line. Greg was within 4 thousandths. Does he have enough race car? Can he run for a 6th championship? He can and he will. Louis T in the meet.
On this episode, we're joined by Top Fuel drivers Sean Reed and Debbie O'Rourke, the series manager for the Congruity NHRA Pro Mod series.
Camps has problems. They're both pedaling. Camps has got wounded and blows the body off. A massive explosion for Camps, and he fights for control.
We're going to be talking Top Fuel success and a 10-race Pro Mod throwdown throughout 2025.
They leave. Steve's out first. He smokes the tires. Clay Milligan wins the U.S. Nationals. 379.2, 327 miles an hour.
This is the NHRA Insider.
They go down the racetrack and at the finish line, sprinting for the 157th time. John forced around and everybody else found out.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Lohnes here with another episode of the NHRA Insider Podcast powered by Speedmaster as we continue to creep our way towards the NHRA Amalie Oil Gator Nationals to start this year. Got a great show today. It's going to be Debbie O'Rourke, who is the series manager for the Congruity NHRA Pro Mod series. Going to talk about the year that was in 24 and the year we can expect in 2025. Major progress has been made over the course of years there, and Debbie's been a driving factor in it. So we're going to have that conversation with her. And of course, Sean Reed. Sean Reed, who came out swinging this year with a win at the shootout in Bradenton and a very fine performance both behind the wheel for him and behind the wrenches for the likes of Rob Wendland, Ryan Elliott, and his entire Reed Trucking and Excavating team. So two great guests coming today. It's going to be a fun discussion to have with both of them as we continue to look toward the Amalie Oil Gator Nationals. Get your tickets on NHRA.com. It's going to be March 7, 8, 9. And that's going to be happening, of course, at Gainesville Raceway, the opening salvo of our 2025 season, the lead up to our 75th anniversary season in 2026. All kinds of great stuff being planned, not only for this season, but for next season going forward. For those of you that saw it, there was a great announcement that came out last week, kind of outlaying the voices you'll be hearing on NHRA.TV and the in-venue side over the course of the year. Familiar faces, Jason Galvin, Joe Costello, Jason Logan, of course, Hannah Rickards on her midway stage and also working some on the in-venue and .TV side. You saw some new names as well. Al Tucci's coming on as the Pro Mod announcer, be a dedicated guy at 10 races with Pro Modified. Going to talk to Debbie about that and bringing Al on as part of their series. You saw the Courtney Enders is coming on. Courtney's going to be doing a bunch of work, whether it's sportsman stuff, interviews on the racetrack, stuff in the pit area, that type of deal. And David Freiberger, which is really, really cool. A longtime friend of mine, and obviously, I'm very excited to have David coming on. He'll be splitting his time between the in-venue .TV side as well as working with us on the NHRA on Fox side for several shows as well as kind of a, let's call him a technical pit reporter. We'll call him the professional level hot rodder in the group. So now all those things are going to be great. That was really fun, and I'm excited to see the reaction that people had to that announcement. A lot of people are really excited to kind of see some and hear some new voices. Of course, I'll be popping my head on the .TV side of things, really starting in Gainesville. Friday night, we're going to do kind of an expanded NHRA.TV broadcast as we don't have a Fox show until Saturday. We won't be producing one until Saturday, so we'll open the season up that way, and it's going to be a great experience to have everybody, new team members and all, kind of on board with that deal. There is going to be a massive announcement made at Gainesville by a racer. And this is one of those things where, like, the silly season, if you will, is hanging on to the very last second. The silly season is actually going to, like one of those Venn diagrams with the circles. The silly season is actually going to intersect very briefly with the Mission Foods regular drag racing season, and that's going to happen at the Gator Nationals. I am not at liberty to say who or what, but I am at liberty to say there is a big announcement coming from a racer, positive announcement that is, you may be able to put half of it together in your mind, but you cannot even begin to put all of it together in your mind. So we're going to leave it at that. There's a lot of interested parties in this one, so I'm not going to poke the bear anymore on that one. But know that there is, beyond all else that'll be happening in Gainesville, including great racing, including the Wright Trailers nationwide All-Star Top Fuel call-out, new sponsor on that baby. That, the race, debuts of cars, debuts of drivers like Spencer Hyde, the kickoff of the season. There is also going to be, again, a really significant announcement made by a racer at this event, and it will be it will be pretty great. It'll shock some people. It'll make some people really happy, and it'll certainly keep the news cycle flowing hard over the course of the Amalie Oil Gator Nationals. So with all that being said, I'm going to go right into my first guest because, again, news is in short supply in terms of everybody's got their head down there working. So I'll be right back with Debbie O'Rourke, the series manager of the Congruity NHRA Pro Mod series, right after this. Hey everybody, we are back here in the NHRA Insider Podcast powered by Speedmaster, joined by my first guest on this show, Debbie O'Rourke, the series manager for the NHRA Congruity Pro Modified series. Debbie, what's happening?
Well, if I told you everything was happening right now, we'd be here for a few days. But, we're gearing up for a new season after a couple of exciting seasons, I guess. And at times it's been tough, but overall we've had a really good journey in the last few years.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I think if we go back, we go back 2 years, I think there was, the Mike Castellana Championship was like this moment that everybody that's loved Pro Mod racing for decades has wanted to see. This guy's one of the OGs, and what he's accomplished to have him with the championship trophy was amazing. But I really want to focus in on last year to start this conversation because it is something special when you have a 10-race series with 10 different winners. That's incredible.
It's absolutely incredible. And, it's not until you get to the latter half of the season when you look back and you think, wow, that is almost unheard of, probably unheard of. And it just proves that everybody is really close to, parity.
Yeah.
And the power adders are all working. Obviously, some of the perpetrators of some of those power adders would always, have a different view of that.
Absolutely.
And that is kind of what attracts people to it too.
Yes.
So, it's you can't really have a closer set of numbers in terms of on the track and how people are delivering it. There is some of the bigger teams that have spent a lot of money testing. You wouldn't believe how much testing and test days that they have before they actually get to the track. We all know that when you get to an NHRA race, you don't get to test, you just get to qualify.
Yeah.
So, and I think, Stan Shelton's mentioned it a few times. That's the attraction for him. It's like an even playing field for everybody, even if they have been testing beforehand.
Exactly, and I think that's a unique characteristic anymore. A lot of the Pro Mod races that you and I find each other at together at outside of the NHRA, these are events that are the tail end of 3 to 4 to 5 days of testing. So you have teams that really have, and listen, it leads to an incredible show because everybody's locked in their program, everybody's got a tune-up. So the flip side of that, to Stan's point, when you roll through the gate, you best be able to get your act together in 3 or 4 runs, or else you're going home before the show even starts.
Exactly, and nobody wants that, right? They want to be able to, first of all, qualify. And, some of these guys, they are excited to qualify now. We've created, I think the whole community has created this atmosphere of tension, but competitiveness, as well as, friends. They are all friends. We've been able to generate a really good engine, if you like, that, and I'm not talking, I'm talking metaphorically speaking.
A human engine,
human engine that is, really driving in the same direction. We all have the same goal. I mean, obviously not always everybody agrees on how to get there, but sure. I think mostly everybody's on board, and they just want a better show. They want to be part of it. They want to deliver on the day. It's the only quarter mile racing left.
Yeah.
So it's unique in its way that it's been run and and how it's run, I guess.
And you mentioned friendship, and I think this is a fun way to double back on the 24 season in that Justin Bond and ultimately the champion Jordan Lazick, Jordy as most people call him. These guys are incredibly tight friends, and yet we see it come down to the wire with the two of them, and it spoke to the class to me because honestly, the way that everything broke in Vegas, the way that set the table for Jordan to be able to win that title, nobody handed him anything. He had to go through people that he knows and loves to win it, and it was pretty wild to watch.
Oh, it was pretty wild to watch. And, when you consider that he only entered, from Chicago onwards, so he missed 2 races.
Right.
And he was consistent in, I guess, in his approach on the day. And, he's quite quiet in relation to, how he goes about himself. But, I'm hoping this year he'll be a little bit more outspoken. But, he's obviously got talent. And the Bahrain 1 racing team is a really A team.
Yes.
You would have seen, Justin, after he got beat by Geordie, Justin was on the start line, every single run after that.
Yep.
And, Khaled was as proud as punch. So, they are in the same team. Yes, they're competitors, but I think at the end of the day, they support each other and they understand what it takes to pull what Geordie did out of the hat. Because I don't know if you would know more better than me, but I don't think I've seen a performance like that, ever.
Yeah, no, it was, and listen, this leads into the next point, which is, we got a 10-race series, you have a 6-race regular season effectively, and then you have a 4-race playoff setup with the road to the championship, and I was a little skeptical the first year. I'm not going to lie to you. When I first heard the change, I didn't necessarily love it. I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to give it a chance, but this isn't where my heart's at. And then I watched what happens with Castellana, and we did that Insider Podcast that morning, that Saturday morning in Vegas with the three real contenders, and Mike was kind of the outside shot. He ends up winning the thing, and then it sets this thing up in Vegas for last year for Jordan, which would not have happened without that format. So it is, to me, that is a total success.
Yeah, and that was something that the board decided would be a good thing to encourage, obviously, all of our races to continue on, because Vegas is a long way from Pro Mod land. Pro Mod land being on the east side of the United States. So, trying to encourage people to go there if they're not in a championship is a difficult thing to do. So, the whole idea of the championship, or the road to the championship, became about to encourage, the racers to stay engaged. Now, the interesting thing about both years is that, as you said, Mike Castellana has, he if you see his face when he got presented with the championship trophy, it was like...
He was bewildered. Yeah.
He was. And the reason is because nobody actually really sat down and worked that out, that he could come around everybody and take it out. And then this year, when we were doing the, I call it, the recalibration of the points, after the 6 races, and Geordie scraped in at, number 10.
Yeah.
He was like asking me, am I in? And, eventually I could tell him that for certain he was in, and he was like really, that was his goal. He wanted to be in the championship hunt.
And look, to me, it proves the system out when you can come from 10th and win. Right, so it's the ultimate. When you come from that, quote unquote far back, and yes, it's a rebunching of things. But when you come from that spot and you're able to win the title, this means hope springs eternal for everybody out there, and that's the magic of it. So kudos to you guys, kudos to the entire group for putting that into place and for having it play out. It's now something I think about and go, okay, how is this even going to look? How can this be better this year? But clearly, we've seen it top itself twice in a row. Yeah.
I absolutely. We are a group that strive to make it better, every year, better than the last year, and, driving towards goals that we create for ourselves. We've managed to, come a long way in the last couple of years. So, having that initiative or that policy, however you want to describe it, it was part of that whole I guess rules that we determined was going to be a good thing, and overall that, and like anything, you've got some who don't think it's a good thing, but mostly they do, especially when you have a championship purse as well attached to it. So we all know that none of them race for the money, but that helps.
It absolutely does help, and the idea that this is a group that. And of course, nobody's going to agree on everything. That's not how the world works. But the fact that this group has assembled itself and led by you is doing such a good job of sitting down at the table, creating a plan, executing the plan, and even if you're not the guy that came up with the idea or even loves the idea, you can see the overall vision of it and move forward. It's a very unique thing to watch, and it's very cool.
It is, and sometimes it scares me. Sometimes it scares me because, some of the things that we do or, we try to engineer, they're a big, hairy goal. And I think a lot of them are kind of looking to me to help, make that happen. We have a board that, run their own businesses, so they really are, they have the ideas that they have the drive to want to be able to do it, but really I'm the guy on the ground. Sure. making it happen. With my team, I've been lucky enough now to come together with a team of people, and without those guys, it wouldn't really. I couldn't do it on my own. So it's not an I thing. It's a team thing, and it's not just about the team. My team. It's about the Pro Mod teams.
Yeah.
And the advisory board, because we have an advisory board and we have a rules board. So we decided earlier on that there was no way that we wanted the rules to cloud any decision making capability from the advisory board.
Makes sense.
So we kind of agreed that we would never discuss rules with the advisory board.
No, that makes total sense. You keep one side on one side and one side on the other, and that's a good separation of church and state, so to speak. You mentioned big hairy things that can be scary. Al Tucci, how about him? He's coming on this year. This is great. I love Al. I love working with him when we get to work together in the wintertime doing some of the stuff in Bradenton, and the guy is such a part of this kind of world and such a part of this element of drag racing. I know he's super excited for it, and I'm excited to see him.
Absolutely. I mean, he is part of the fabric of Pro Mod, the same as you are. And, we were talking the end of last year about how we could go into this year a little bit more excited, creating that excitement. And one of the board members suggested, that we should probably reach out to Al and see if he would be interested. But obviously, we do work hand in hand with NHRA. Sure. So, a lot of our decision-making capability is enabled by NHRA. Without NHRA, approving these things, it wouldn't be able to happen. So, and that in itself, I think everybody would agree a couple of years ago was a little lacking.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, I think that in itself now, we are able to work together. We're able to craft out unique initiatives between us, and giving NHRA full credit, they have pretty much said yes to everything we've asked for. No. So Al Tucci coming on board is our next step, and I'm going to work him to death. Hopefully not to death, but I will be working him hard. With things that we haven't been able to do because we haven't had the capacity to do it. Not the will, but the capacity in terms of things like pit reporting.
Awesome.
Obviously the live booth commentary.
Yes.
Help to facilitate with NHRA things like our new Pro Mod school, which will be facilitated on a Friday, and then even with the autograph sessions we have. We need to create more awareness with the fans about Pro Mod. I think it is beginning to stick, but we need to have a personality like Al to really, take it to the next level.
And look, events and doing things like the Pro Mod School, which, for those of you that are regular NHRA, Mission Foods events attendees, stuff like Nitro School exists, and it's a great thing where you get hundreds of fans and they learn about nitro cars and stuff, and this will have the same effect with Pro Mod. You get people around that stage, they get to ask questions, they get to ask and learn stuff from either drivers or crew chiefs, and that's what keeps them in the stands, and that's what keeps them roaming around the pits to find their favorite driver. So I think that is that's going to be a great program, and certainly something that I know people will enjoy. And to your point, being able to crank the social content, being able to crank the pit reporting and that type of stuff is going to be a nice added element. One of the things I think that is maybe that the fans don't necessarily see, but has been a great thing for the Pro Mod category over the last few years, your efforts in the hospitality side of things. I want to talk a little bit about that, because that really, to me, to be able to bring in a sponsor and provide them with that great experience is certainly a huge thing for your group.
Yeah, it's we think that it's actually become our mantle, in that for many different reasons. One, obviously, is the sponsorship side of it. We've been able to create an environment for B2B opportunities. The area itself is getting better every year, and our Pro Mod families and guests are able to use it at any time. So you have a lot of people coming and going in that particular area.
Yes.
And which in itself creates the opportunities for sponsors or vendors who are looking to expand their own product line. Congruity for us, was the turning point in regard to, bringing on a sponsor who hadn't even been to a drag race before.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing, because they are looking at, obviously, they are looking at bringing their business to our world, and they have been able to get some traction with a few of the races, but this year is going to be a full-on push to get them more business. And not only them, but, our other sponsors as well. This year, we've gone up to 19, 20 gold sponsorships. We have our series sponsor remaining in Congruity. And then, we have Killing Time Racing, who is staying on board for the top qualifying, award. And I guess this is another thing that kind of is different to what we used to do, but also, that NHRA is, come to the table for, being able to bring sponsors on for different awards that haven't been offered before under the NHRA umbrella.
Yes.
Credit to NHRA for wanting to bring that on board and willing to change.
Yeah, and look, these are, it's any time that a racer can get handed something back is awesome, right? Whether it's a number one qualifier, whatever it is, whether it's a bonus program, like these are all the things that, as much as you have to appreciate them, because these are the things that occasionally keep somebody coming back. As weird as it sounds, that amount of money that they get for low ET, which is a great payout, but it's not going to change somebody's life. But when you get to leave the racetrack, even if you got your butt kicked on first round, you still accomplish something that weekend. It makes you hungry to come back again. So these are all important things.
Absolutely. And, let's take Gainesville as an example. The purse for the actual event will be the same as ever, which was $35,000. But in addition to that, we have our FTI showdown, in which a racer can win another $8,000.
Nice. And
then we have our top qualifier, which is another $2,000. So in real terms, the purse is $45,000.
Yeah, that's real.
And that's one of the things we've realized last year is that we don't think, we've done a good job at marketing ourselves on that side of things. So this year you'll see a little bit more in that way, and
good.
I've asked NHRA to help me as well to get that out to the masses.
Well, I know a guy. So, yeah.
yes, we know a guy.
One of the things I wanted to bring up kind of as a last topic here is the fact that, to me, we can judge the health of any category. We can judge the direction of any category with new and fresh participants. And I look and I see racers like William Brown stepping up to come into the NHRA series. I see Derek Menholt coming to step back into the NHRA fold. That's a great sign. To me, it's a great sign. And like you said, we had a couple of really lean years in there, and it's a credit to the work that's been done to take from those lean years to bring us into what we're looking at now, which is actual growth.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you'll see maybe some of the older, the guys that have raced in Pro Mod before, they might come back too. But like having people like Mike Janis and Chip King come back, that's exciting too.
It's great.
They're the OGs. They've been around and Mike Castellano has every season since Pro Mod existence has raced Pro Mod, and in 23 that was his first championship ever. So it's a very diverse group. I really think that we need to embrace everybody that comes on board, and that means, and that's my big scary goal, because for us to make them feel welcome, to get all the information that we need about them, for Al to know all of that information, for us to then project that out to the world, is our goal for this year. So it's not so much about I guess the hospitality will always remain, and we're continuing to strive to make that better as well. But this year for us, the focus is on that exposure side.
It's great. And look, one last question for you on a personal level. I mean, you spent your entire life in racing in some form, right? You grew up, you're daughter of a rally racer. You've been a racer yourself for many years, blowing alcohol cars. One of the things I'm always interested in is, would you have ever expected yourself to be in the spot you're in right now? Is this anything that was ever on the radar for you, even 15 years ago?
No, absolutely not. I mean, in Australia, as you know, it's not as big a sport as it is here.
Sure.
It's not as structured, and there is so many different views and politics involved in Australia. I think the environment here, the landscape here, is so vast, and even though you have, as I said, you don't have everybody rowing in the same way all the time, but absolutely. I think generally speaking, the politics is not as unachievable as it is in Australia, if you know what I mean. So would I have no, because my world back then, it was a different world. I was in corporate land, and really I came here to try a different life, I guess, in terms of knowing that was not what I wanted to do anymore. Our son is now 27, so he doesn't rely on us at all. So,
right.
We're empty nesters. I think that's what it's called.
It is.
So, crafting a career, I guess, out of drag racing was never on my radar. I guess if I look back on it now, it would have been a nice to do, and maybe I think my view on comes from a racing ground. Yes. So I believe, and again, not everybody would agree, but I believe I understand the racers' mentality, and also the promotional side of it. So, and then I guess if you mix that in with the business consultancy, which I have spent 30 years in, then I guess that's why you've got what you've got right now.
Yeah, that's your toolbox. I mean, it's a great story. Yeah. I always like to ask that question of people that have been in this industry in various ways, because everybody's taken a different path here. Everybody has. There's very few people whose path has been a straight line into this, and the amount of experience you carry into this business from the outside, to me, is huge. I think to be able to have a well-rounded perspective on not just the business of racing, but actually, operating a normal business, if you will, is huge. Yes. So, and the fact that you're dealing, your board and your racers by and large are business owners. And so the fact you can sit in a room with all of them and look them in the eye and not only comprehend what they're saying, but maybe in some cases know it better than they do, it's a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, that also enables me to speak, I think, knowledgeably to sponsors as well.
Yes.
So especially sponsors not involved in the industry.
Well, Debbie, it's a pleasure to catch up with you as always. Your hustle is admirable. You're everywhere all the time, all at once. So I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks down in Bradenton for the big wrap-up of the Winter Series of Pro Mod Drag Racing, and then, of course, our season kickoff at the Amalie Oil Gator National. So, Debbie O'Rourke, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on.
And we'll be back in just a minute with Sean Reed, a man who's made big waves already this year in Top Fuel. Hey everybody, we're back here in the NHRA Insider, powered by Speedmaster, joined by my second guest, a guy who went down and took home all the money down at the Superstar Shootout in Florida in the Top Fuel category. Sean Reed, what's going on, man?
Hey, Brian, not much.